having something do something.
Hey,
All
there you
right,
go.
so now I think that is live and we're
Yep.
going. Okay, so welcome to Show of Hands on Air number 46. I think this is number 2 or 3 without Tony. This is going to be Sports Night, and we're going to go ahead and let everybody introduce themselves. We have one new person and some returning guests. We're going to go left to right on my screen because that's what he normally does, and on mine that starts with you, Russell. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm flipping back and forth between the Yankees getting their ass kicked by the Mets, and it seems like whenever I go on this show, some scrub team that has no business beating the Yankees takes us apart. Because the last time was the Houston Astros. God bless them. And flipping with the Rangers, who are beating the Penguins here in the Stanley Cup. So.
Oh, that's right, hockey. Yeah, hockey. That's still going on.
The other sport, yes. It's 80 degrees out. It's still time for hockey.
The other sport.
Hey, I just heard something happened with Carlos Beltran today. What's up with Beltran?
He has a spur in his foot or something like that, a bone spur.
Oh, that's great.
Right.
That always happens as soon as somebody puts on the pinstripes, too.
Yes.
All right, next on my screen would be new to Show of Hands on Air for the first time. Dale, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Just watching the Blackhawks Wild game. Puck just dropped, so excited to be here, and hopefully I get invited back and don't mess up too much.
Right on. And your screen name for everybody was? I'm going to let you say it because I forgot it last time already.
Yeah, it's Dale91.
There we go. And where are you located?
I'm in Florida, up in Gainesville.
Oh, that's right.
I do sports marketing, so this is the perfect on-air for me to be at.
Perfect. Next, we have another returning guest. Hi, Emily.
Hello. I'm Emily, 33. I'm also watching the Blackhawks Wild game. I'm in North Carolina.
That's right. You are a fan of the hockey, aren't you?
A little bit.
Yeah?
A little bit.
You root for another team, though, too, don't you?
The Carolina Hurricanes.
The Hartford Whalers.
Not anymore?
Yeah. Tell me about it. All right. Next on my screen is Zod. How you doing, man?
Hey, doing good. Still in Washington, still out near Mount Rainier, and the only thing that's changed is the weather's gone sour in the last day or so. It was 80 in Seattle, 73 here, not a cloud in the sky. It's miserable.
Oh, jeez. Some would say not a cloud in the sky is nice. Some would not. I know a lovely lady who actually prefers like thunderstorms and clouds and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was out spraying weeds in the driveway, and I thought I was going to croak out there. 73 degrees is way above my tolerance level.
Right on, man. So next on my screen is Sam. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm watching the Washington Wizards beat the Indiana Pacers' ass right now. It's not even close.
All right, so we do have like pretty much the full spectrum covered. We got a baseball game going on, a couple of hockey games. You're watching basketball. I guess football is just SOL. Huh? There's no football going on right now, is there?
Yeah. Nope.
I mean, they got the draft, so I mean, there was that.
The Spanish soccer league's wrapping up, so I mean, it depends who you ask if football's still going on.
Soccer, man. That's the sport. That's right. I forget soccer.
Yeah, they play that a lot.
I mean, I played it as a kid. You know, that was fun. A lot of people played it as a kid, but I tell you what, though, too, we had our at work we had our Mother's Day banquet this weekend, and the direction I was facing the entire time, I had the soccer game on, and I don't even know who was playing, but I mean, it was intense. I'll tell you that. I mean, it's just constant. It's just constant running around, and I give those guys credit for at least that. I mean, it's almost like hockey without the ice, but they don't get
and the physicality.
Yeah, they don't get to fight. They should fight more. They should let them fight. Then I'd watch.
I'd be in favor of some more judo kicks in soccer. That'd bring in some viewers.
They fight. Didn't somebody, one of those Brazil games, didn't some guy right in the middle of a game pull out a knife and stab the other guy to death or something?
Wow, no, I missed that one.
I'm pretty sure.
I know in a Russian league game, the home fans got pissed at their team got like their ass beat, and they went on the pitch and like started punching and assaulting the other players.
For those listening at home, pitch is another word for field.
Yeah, over in Europe, they actually have fans. People die. Like, any of the major games, somebody's going to die before it's over. I mean, actually die, not just.
See, I know that they like after the games it gets really physical. Like I think it was also Brazil that somebody scored an own goal, and after the game, like that guy just like they.
It was Colombia, and he was for the national team, and he scored against his own team, and he was basically taken out by a unhappy drug lord who had bet on the other side or on his side, and then ultimately lost him some money and disappeared off the planet.
So that happens in soccer, apparently. I don't think that happens in any other sport. Anybody else? Does anybody know of anybody being killed by drug lords? No?
I'm pretty sure it happens in cricket. I'm pretty sure. Those fans, they get a little rowdy.
I mean, all I needed to hear about is something like this happening in NASCAR, and then it'd be, next level. Yeah, that's right. I brought up NASCAR.
Is that a sport?
On the sports show?
I mean, it is. I gotta say, it's a sport. You apply effort. It takes skill. It's just as much of a sport.
Driving a circle.
Yeah, but it takes
some
endurance. Yeah. I mean,
like the steering wheel works out your arm. Like it really does. I'm not like ha ha ha. No, like your arms actually do get a workout. It's why not? It's a sport.
I mean, there's actually a little bit of brain power involved there too, because if you crash and you don't crash right, like you can get really hurt. Danica Patrick, that's probably the last time I was ever watching a NASCAR event. Was one of her first matches, and she went right into the wall, and they actually gave her credit on how she crashed, because right before she crashed, she let go of the wheel, and they said, if she didn't, then she probably would have broken both of her wrists. So, see, you even have to know how to crash in that. So, I mean, there you go. That's a skill, right?
Yeah. Wrestling's a sport too, I guess, because you need to know how to fall.
I mean, which wrestling are you referring to? Like Olympic or like what you gonna do, brother? Wrestling. Like, there's a difference. All right, let's see if we can get to some actual polls here. At show of hands, the main account, the actual account, had one talking about salary caps, and this is something that kind of surprises me because it's something that across the board it looks like fans pretty much want and like, but for some reason in baseball, I don't know if it's ever going to happen. It exists in football. Does basketball have a salary cap? I have no idea.
Basketball has a hard cap.
What's the difference between a hard cap and a soft cap?
Soft cap you can kind of mess around with a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, at least there's rules.
Things like that, yeah. So I'm assuming those 13% in red are in fact Yankee fans. That is us.
See, that's the thing I know one of them is not me. Like one of them, I'm a Yankees fan, and I definitely would like a cap because I don't want to listen to people bitch about the salary thing for the rest of my life. I mean, I think it's something that like you're going to have people that want to play for the Yankees because of the prestige as compared to just getting paid. Nowadays when someone gets like a huge contract from anybody, as soon as it's over like $100 million, it's just a matter of time before he puts on pinstripes, because when they unload his contract, he's got 3 places he can go, and it's going to be Boston, it's going to be New York, or what else? Where else is he going to go?
L.A.
Okay, there you go. So there's the third. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But the problem I have with the argument though is that people who favor the salary cap are saying that they want it due to competitiveness. However, there's no statistics that actually support that. When the Yankees had their dynasty in the late 90s, their last dynasty, they were actually the second highest paid team in baseball. The Orioles were number one for a year or two, and I believe the Dodgers were as well. The Yankees actually didn't get out of control with their spending until about 2003 and 2004 when they actually started to lose. And the Steinbrenner family once again went into their mode that they went in the 1980s, and that was panic. And let's just buy up all the best stars that we can get, even though they're now past their prime. Jason Giambi, for example, A-Rod's been a disaster. He did have a couple good years, won an MVP with us, but and a World Series championship. But spending is not what made the Yankees the Yankees. The other argument that people say, or adding to the argument of competitiveness, well, the Yankees have won 27 World Championships. Well, 20 of those championships were before the salary cap and before free agency, excuse me, and actually there was probably an artificial salary cap because owners kept salaries low because they basically own the player. That you accept what I'm going to give you, or you just don't play baseball. You don't get to play anywhere else.
Right.
Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale held out on the Dodgers for in one season in the 60s until they finally gave them some money, but they didn't get anything near of what a player would get today. So the argument that they need a salary cap to make it more competitive is ridiculous in my mind.
See, and the thing for me is that I've always been called, bandwagon jumper or, for being a Yankees fan. But I grew up in, the 80s watching the Yankees when, Willie Randolph and Mattingly and, those teams. And, some of them were good, but they weren't great. The Randy Velardis, what was his name? Alfonso Espinosa or something like that.
Yes.
That was our best shortstop until Jeter came along for the longest time. Getting Steve Sachs was a big deal back in the day, and then now, it just upsets me as well. When guys like Clemens, they retire and they declare that when I go into the Hall of Fame, I'm going to go in this jersey or I'm not going to show up.
Yeah, and where it probably is a challenge though, or where a salary cap would help though, and I'll concede this, is that although bringing these stars, Clemens being another one that you just mentioned, to the team, and it doesn't necessarily support them getting a championship, a salary cap could potentially keep them on the team that they originated with and keep that particular team more competitive. However, another good example of where that didn't reign true either was the Seattle Mariners, who lost Ken Griffey Jr., Randy Johnson, and Alex Rodriguez, and then the following year won more games in the history of baseball in a single season than any other team. They didn't win the World Series, but they did win 118 games or something that year without three of the biggest stars that were, in fact, on their team at one point.
Now, does anybody here hold the point that a salary cap is bad?
No, I like it. Baseball obviously is different, where the salary cap, as CT just said, it doesn't need to be there, but for the rest of the sports, it does kind of keep the competition level fair.
Is there one in hockey? I'm not even sure.
There is, and it's I think it's a hard cap if I'm not mistaken, and it's projected to go up by about $4 or $5 million next year. So, good news for my Blackhawks is Kane and Taves are under contract one more year.
So it's like a debt ceiling for salaries for the sports is pretty much what it is. They just keep raising it.
Yeah. Basketball though, you pay a tax if you go over. So the Heat, they went over the salary cap, but they just pay a tax to the league.
Huh.
Well, baseball does have a cap as a team. There's no salary caps on players.
Exactly.
If you go over the certain limit, the Yankees have been paying this tax since 2000 or 2001. So they have been contributing more money to other teams, but it's more of a revenue sharing gimmick really than a salary cap.
All right, I think we've pretty much nailed this subject into the ground.
Nobody wanted to argue me with.
No, I don't think so. I think we're all pretty much on the same page with this.
He had pretty good points. I was like, I didn't even know any of that about the Yankees. Actually, I came out with the yes mostly because using the Yankees as an example, I didn't know that about their 20 championships prior to free agency. That's really interesting.
Well, to kind of move off on the salary cap, but the issue of competitiveness. The problem with baseball, unlike football, basketball, and hockey, is the way they generate their revenue. Most baseball teams generate their revenue from local cable TV contracts, and therefore they're keeping the money for themselves,
Right.
and they're not sharing it amongst the whole larger organization. I mean, the NFL being the best example, where it's strictly national contracts and the money is shared equally, which makes it easier for teams in Kansas City to pay their players, on a comparative level with LA. Well, not LA; they don't even have a team, but with big markets like Chicago and New York. So, and if baseball can come up with a system where they can share the money that they bring in and generate it equally, then I wouldn't have a problem with sharing the money. But right now, I pay my money to the Yankees through my cable TV contract and tickets that I go to. I don't want that money going to Tampa and Kansas City and whomever else. All right, now I'm done.
Okay. Man, I had another show of hands on air question that it looks like I didn't actually favorite. And give me 1 second here, because it was the one with the word hockey. Yes, here we go.
The word.
The word hockey.
Is he not merciful? He mentioned hockey.
Ugh. Hey, you know what? I'll say this. The reason I get so bitter with hockey is because as a kid, I was a Whalers fan, Hartford Whalers out of Connecticut, and when the team left, that was our one local team. Everything else, like, we root for football from this state, from baseball from that state. And we had UConn as a college basketball team, but that was like our professional team. And when they left, I was as a kid, I was heartbroken, and I pretty much told hockey to go screw. But
better.
But yes,
Happened in Carolina. They never won one in Hartford.
But that's not.
Hey.
I mean, that doesn't have nothing to do with where they were. I mean, that's the team and the management. I mean, maybe the team and the management was different, and that's why they won in North Carolina.
We made the playoffs 3 times in 17 years. Come on. Give us some credit. And there were like 10 less teams in the league then, too. Back when they had the Adams division, and 4 out of 5 teams would make the playoffs, and the 5th team was always the Hartford Whalers.
Good times, man. Good times. So, Emily, I'll start off with you because I'm curious what you think. The question itself was, will hockey and soccer increase their popularity in the States, or are they always going to be like a second-tier sports to the big 3, baseball, football, and basketball? I mean, I was surprised to see that, 35% of the people think that, one of those 2, if not both of those 2 sports will, be more popular than one of the other 3 at some point. And we actually had, this made the hot list, so it actually got some decent votes. But Emily, what do you think? Do you think hockey itself will ever be bigger than baseball, football, or basketball?
Maybe. See, I live in the South, and I don't think it is here. I think I get strange looks for being a hockey fan here. But when I go to like Philadelphia and New York, you can tell it's a much bigger sport there.
Yeah.
But I think overall, no. But I'd like it to.
I mean, I think it's just it's one of those things where, I mean, if hockey was more of a regional sport, like if it was more an up north sport and they played outdoors and it was in the winter and that kind of a thing, I think it would, maybe if they played it more like football, where they had like, maybe, a game a week and they played outside and there was no walls, like, like old school hockey and stuff like that. But, you got teams in Florida, you got teams in Texas, and nobody ain't got time for that in the South. I think it would be wiser for the sport in general if they went back to some of the roots of hockey and played on like, a pond outside in the winter.
Go back to Hartford.
And yes, precisely. See, now you're figuring me out.
I think Emily's right, though. It depends on the location of the team. And when you come up here right now in Connecticut, I get, both the New York and the Boston area sports talk and news, and right now we've got Yankees Mets on baseball, but really the big story tonight is Game 7 with the Rangers and the Penguins. I mean, that's what everybody's talking about. That's what's making the news stories, and what probably is going to even get the better ratings. And same in Boston right now, playing the Canadiens of Montreal. It's not Red Sox right now. It is the Boston Bruins. So, I mean, hockey's got its fans, but I don't see it really expanding beyond where it can be played outdoors by kids. I mean, sometimes we become fans of sports, whether it's Little League or Pop Warner football or what have you. But, if you can't play hockey enough down in Florida as a kid, you're probably not going to be as big a fan of it when you get a little bit older.
Exactly.
Dale,
what do you think? Do you think it's ever going to be more popular than one of the 3?
Well, I don't know if it's going to be more popular, but I do think the TV ratings might get higher than baseball, especially in those specific markets. I know right now the Blackhawks are the second most popular team in Chicago. I'm sure Boston's the most popular team right now, maybe trailing the Patriots.
How does that go in Chicago then? Who's number one?
It's the Bears.
Wait, so say it again.
The Bears.
The Bears and then the Blackhawks and then.
Correct.
And then I'm going to say the Bulls.
I would say the Cubs.
I was thinking it was probably the Cubs and then the Bulls.
Man, and the Bulls have like won championships and had dynasties, and the Cubs haven't won since.
They had in the '90s. There was no team more popular in Chicago than the Bulls.
Man, and it's funny to me now when you go.
I mean, that's.
When you go down to the demographics here where it breaks it down, I mean, I don't mean to break race into this, but I usually do apparently. Black people, 83% of them think that hockey and soccer are going to be more, I'm sorry, I have that the other way around. I'm sorry, that makes more sense now. I thought they were saying that it will change, and I was like, I don't get that because there's not a lot of black hockey players. So, but now I had that backwards. That makes more sense now.
It's kind of, but tying them together, hockey and soccer, it's like soccer is probably going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Hockey may be kind of, like you were saying, it might wind up being a more unique market across the northern tier or something.
I'm trying to see if there
soccer's
was.
growing.
Yeah, soccer's huge. I mean, if it hangs on for a couple more years, nobody here's even going to care if they ever get a basketball team back because they got the soccer team.
Yeah,
and
soccer,
it's better anyway.
They pulled in like 775,000 like viewers for a Manchester United game that they played on ESPN, and there's going to be an Orlando franchise in MLS that might start up. There also might be one that's going to start up in Miami as well. And the MLS is getting more popular, and there's more money into it, and they're pulling in better players. Like Toronto FC just spent millions of dollars on 3 players. They pulled in the starting goalkeeper for Brazil's national team. They pulled in a player that played for England, that he was a legendary player, and they also have Michael Bradley, who's a starter on the American team, and it's picking up momentum.
Now, what was the team that what's his name, Beckham?
The LA Galaxy.
He's not playing anymore, though, right?
No, he's actually the one that might start the Miami franchise.
So he's going to turn into like an owner at this point?
Yeah.
That should be interesting.
Well, you remember what a big deal that was when he came here. I mean, that was in the news for like 2 years. It seemed like he was on TV all the time. It was huge.
Yeah, I mean that was really big news in general. Like the fact that exactly. he was going to bring soccer to the States. Like that was pretty much the story.
I think soccer's already here. I mean, when you talk about kids playing it, kids play soccer. They've been playing soccer since. I mean, my dad talks about playing soccer when he was a kid in St. Louis in like probably the 30s or 40s sometime.
I mean, that can actually be a nice little segue into one of the questions, because one of the questions I did ask as a child who played sports, and I mean, obviously, I would say most people did, and you could say that probably right away, and it was 80-20, so 80% of people did play sports as a child. I don't remember if there was a demographic no, there was pretty much a partisan question. Pretty much everybody, it was about 80% across the board. But at the same time, like I was surprised that 20% didn't. I thought that would be a smaller number. I was not necessarily going for 100%, but I really thought that most people as a child at least played soccer or t-ball or something. And
something they made you play at least. Like in gym class, they made you go out and they made girls play field hockey and. I don't know. They probably just made us run around the track. I don't remember. You played something though. Everybody, had to try to jump over the bar. Everybody had to, wrestling is. I'm pretty sure in gym class they made people wrestle. I was on the wrestling team, so I don't know. I don't remember it that well. For me, it just blurs together as being sweaty and having to run all the time. But
Emily, did you play anything as a kid?
Soccer, softball, and swimming, and gymnastics.
Oh, you didn't play hockey as a kid?
No.
No? I just had little Emily with the gear on in my head, and that was kind of funny. Like checking people into cars and shit. That would have been great.
If you want to hook people into watching hockey, just show them kid hockey. It sucks you in. It is just so amazing. Watch these little 2.5 and 3 foot tall people, and they're out there at like a half a mile an hour. And you're just hoping they don't fall over. And when they do, they're like weebles. They just kind of bounce.
Okay, so now I'm just going to move right on to the high school. I mean, that changed a little bit. We got a little bit with like 60-40 almost here, and now we're getting at least a little bit of a breakdown as far as gender goes. It was more men than women played any kind of high school sports. The party lines are pretty much the same. There was a little bit of an age gap. I guess the older crowd didn't play as much high school sports as some of the younger people did today. Did anybody here not play anything in high school?
Yeah, I didn't play in high school. I played Little League baseball and football, but by high school I was basically told, like, hey son, sports is not your thing. So when everybody got to play, I made the team amazingly. But once there was a cut, that pretty much ended it for me. So.
Once there was an ability line that you had to come to.
Yeah, I mean, in baseball, I mean, I could field. I mean, I played in the outfield, and anything near me, I can catch. But if the pitcher didn't throw it straight, I wasn't hitting it. Any type of curve or movement, and I was done. So. My technique at first was to just try and lean in and get hit by the pitch, and I'd get on base because I can run too. But so I was one of those folks who said no at the high school level. So I played as a kid, but not in high school. I tried again in college. That didn't work out either. So.
See, I was annoyed at both of those because when I was a kid in Little League, we played on a bunch of fields that didn't have a fence, so you couldn't hit a home run. You just had to hit the ball far and run really fast and hope for throwing errors, and that's just the way to do it. And then when I got to high school, we literally had a green monster. Like right field had no fence, and you just had to again hit it far and run. And then if you were gonna hit a home run to left, you had to hit it about 265 feet, but you had to hit it like 400 feet in the air. So like my stats were never really any good because that was just a hell of a wall to try to hit it over.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let's just move on to the next one here because there's a bunch of them that I wanted to go through real quick and just peruse.
I have a pretty funny story.
Hit me.
When I was in high school, I wanted to play sports, but I never got around to doing it. And I had a very unorthodox, time in high school. Like I didn't finish high school, but the high school that I went to, there was like a lot of Hispanic kids, and I was like one of like 3 actually black kids. There was a lot of dark-skinned people, but I was one of like 3 actual black kids. Okay. And in my gym class, whenever we had that test of like, oh, how many push-ups, sit-ups you could do, and whatever, the gym teacher would buff up my numbers because he was a coach and he wanted me to play football for him so bad that he was like, I'm big. He's like, oh, how many push-ups do you do? I'm like, oh, I did like 15. He's like, what's that? 20? All right. I'm like, all right, man. I get it. You're animated.
Jesus. I mean, that's like reverse racism, isn't it? Kind of something like that?
I didn't mind. I was like, yeah, all right, I did 20. Yeah.
Okay. You didn't mind the reverse racism. You heard it here first.
I was absolutely fine with it.
It was affirmative action.
Yeah.
Did anybody have a pegboard in gym class? A thing hanging on the wall that you had to kind of climb around by sticking these pegs in holes?
Nope.
Where you're like up in the air 20 feet? God, I hated that thing.
No, I mean, I never even had the rope climb. Did everybody have the rope climb?
Yeah, I loved that. All the way up
I had
to
the
the
rope
roof.
in grammar school.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I
Grammar
think
school,
that was grade school or junior high probably.
I heard something funny about like, you're going to feel the funny rope in between your legs thing, but I mean, nope, we never had to do that crap. I was pretty happy about that too, though. All right,
That's
so
not
what's...
a place you want a rope burn either.
No, I mean, I guess, I wouldn't want one anywhere, but I guess that is definitely a place not to get a rope burn. Now, what a great segue into the next thing, but Connecticut Yankee actually asked a great question, and I was surprised. I guess I wasn't surprised with the breakdown, but I like seeing a partisan divide because it just kind of opens up the conversation a little bit, but it was referring to the first gay football player that was drafted by the Rams. ESPN captured the moment. What do you think? Kind of a deal. And it was funny because I when I saw the question, I was interested in how in depth the comments would get, but I didn't think the comments actually got too out of whack. But I didn't check them recently, to be honest. But when you go down and you look at the numbers, 33% really thought it was, I guess TMI, and guess, and surprise, surprise, who thought it was? Bam.
What? What?
The thing that bothers me about this is I really think it has almost nothing to do with the sports thing. They just say they just see, gay player, yada, and as soon as they see gay player, they go TMI.
TMI.
I don't want to know about that shit.
They just start just breaking their finger, jamming the button and shit.
Well, I mean, part of what I was trying to get at was, I understand the historical significance of it, but unlike, say, Jackie Robinson, there have been gay people who have been in football and other sports. They just came out either much later in life or towards the end of their career. The basketball player comes to mind who actually was unsigned when he announced, and then he got picked up by somebody. So
Sam Collins with the Brooklyn Nets.
Exactly. Thank you. So to me, it's not as much of a groundbreaking historical event, except for the fact that he announced ahead of time, and also with just the level of the player, I guess, as well. I mean, Jackie Robinson was handpicked by Branch Rickey because of not just his ability to that he felt that he was going to be able to withstand a lot of the problems, but he had the talent. He knew Jackie Robinson was going to be good. He knew Jackie Robinson was going to help his team and ultimately win a World Series championship. So, fans being fans will put their love of their team eventually over the color of the player. And the other factor is, I think most people are actually rooting for probably Michael Samms to succeed, where Jackie Robinson, I think, a lot of people would have hoped that he failed. And just the way that ESPN covered it, though, just bothered me. It bothered me a lot, just how they were just there with the camera, and I'm sure they had it probably set up for both angles, where if he didn't get picked, they were going to zoom in on him crying and all upset, and maybe the boyfriend, or someone in the family saying how it's unjust, etc. So that's kind of was the motivation by my question, but I did put though it was okay.
See, I watched the video, and I've watched drafts before, and I didn't really think it was any different than, they've shown that before, and the call comes in, and the guy breaks down, and okay, this guy hugged and kissed another man after he got the call, but other than that, it seemed
but not for
normal.
But not for the 250th guy picked.
Yeah.
I mean, they do it for the top 10, the top 20,
right,
or even the first round or two. But I mean, this guy was way down there, and I think ESPN was they were more in it for the media effect. I don't think they were really there for the social justice aspect of it. I think it was a little bit of ESPN exploitation.
I'll say this: I didn't think the actual moment was over the top, in my opinion. I think how many times they played it was obnoxious, which goes to your point of ESPN using it for their media purposes. But I also say that just from a football perspective, the Rams have a great defensive line. They don't really need Michael Sam, So I feel like it was kind of a pseudo good moment. You know what I mean? It wasn't really
a little bit of a publicity stunt, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it was the Rams and the NFL patting themselves on the back, especially after the Donald Sterling thing. I just didn't. I don't know. It was just the situation was weak.
I mean, for real quick here, one more thing. I'm going to go back to the race card again, and when you look at these breakdowns, even more than Republicans, Black, 66% TMI, thought that that's more than any other demographic across the board thought that this was too much information. And I mean, that surprises me too. I mean, it was a black guy. You know what I mean? It's not like. That just surprises me. I mean, it doesn't surprise me as much to find out that this guy's boyfriend was a little twink. You know what I mean? That was that was a little man. You know what I mean? That guy's leaning over, crying in this guy's arms, and that was just a little boy. But I mean.
So
whatever.
He's the twink, and Michael Samms is the bear. Is that correct?
I think that's the way it is. Maybe no. I think it's a cub. Maybe it's a cub. I think maybe the cub needs a beard or something like that. I'm not sure. I don't know the terminology.
We need an
to
expert.
be honest. Yeah, I mean, and that I am not. That is for sure. But we're gonna take that moment and we're gonna move on because
Move on.
now we're maybe I just name called. I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna get in trouble for name calling now. So
We always get in trouble for something.
yeah, it happens. It really does. Let's see. This was one more that I was kind of surprised about. I was curious to how many people would be interested to be married to a pro athlete, and most of the people said no. Would anybody here? Did anybody here say no?
I
I
did.
said no. Yeah, I
Okay.
said,
Go ahead.
go ahead, CT.
Oh, me? Okay. My only reason, and I mean, have you seen many pro female athletes?
I was picturing a Russian weightlifter too. That just
Oh,
And I think, that's a horrible stereotype, and I shouldn't do that. I mean, there are quite a few attractive female athletes, but for some reason, it was just a picture in my mind. No, I just wouldn't do that. So.
See, I figured most guys would at least picture like Anna Kournikova or something like that. You know what I mean?
I didn't think of her.
yeah. I was actually the other way around. I mean, when I think of female athlete, I'm picturing that I don't know her name. She plays for Vancouver, but she's just amazing in every way. And
I don't know. Vancouver, what?
Toronto, not Toronto.
No,
Brisbane.
not. I know the place. I'm talking about the sport. Like, I know where Vancouver is. Thank you, Mike. But soccer. Okay. More
What
guys.
other
More,
sports are there?
I don't. I'm not even sure anymore. I really don't know.
Oh, you're I guess basketball, but I mean on TV here it's always soccer.
This is one of those ones where party lines weren't very blurry. That was pretty down the board. More men said sure than women. I figured there would be the other way around, but I don't know. Dale, would you want to marry a pro athlete?
I would if it was the right person. There's plenty of good-looking, smart, athletic female athletes, and ultimately, I wasn't good enough to play pro sports. I would hope that my kid would be in that situation where maybe they play pro sports. So, from a genetic standpoint, I'd be all for it.
Okay, I have a good question now, Emily. Would you rather marry a very good, very popular, very rich baseball player, or a mediocre hockey player who was getting the league minimum?
Hockey, because then I can go to those games.
Yeah, okay, that was an easy one, I guess.
Yeah, that was.
Even if he's lost some teeth, would you still
Bother me.
look that way?
Ooh.
I don't give a shit. I want to go to the games.
So this way, so you're looking at marriage as free hockey tickets is pretty much what you're looking at. My question.
Yeah.
That's awful.
That sounds legitimate to me.
Thank you.
Each their own.
If there was a female player on the Yankees, I think I'd be busting down her door.
I think
in the luxury suite box and
Can you imagine if Jenny Finch was ever coming out of the Yankee bullpen? There you go.
I got to go back and change my answer now. Definitely Jenny Finch is yeah. All right, I'm gonna go back on.
All right, we're gonna just jump right off that now because that was pretty much done. But I got an actual football question here, sort of, but it also kind of, it's not really necessarily even a debatable one. Pretty much across the board, everybody. I'm surprised where that 5% comes from, but I guess we'll see in a second when I break it down. But this was about Josh Gordon, who got suspended for a year for testing positive for marijuana. But Ray Rice, caught on camera beating up his fiance, is going to be allowed to play this year. That just, I can't believe that a football like that an organization like the National Football League is actually going to be okay with letting this guy play, and they're going to bench somebody for an entire year for pot.
That question leaves a part of it out. Josh Gordon's been caught using marijuana multiple times, and I'm pretty sure that they have the rules set like, oh, you get caught X amount of times, the punishment will be this. And that, don't get me wrong, I still think that just the whole precedent of one guy smoked pot and another guy beat his wife, and the guy who gets to beat his wife gets to play, I think that's bullshit, don't get me wrong. But
right.
Let's be fair.
And I understand that too, but at the same time, there shouldn't even be you can get away with this twice as far as the beating your fiance goes. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that should be a one. And I mean, a lot of these teams have what are they called? The clauses where you look like an asshole, so you're fired. What is? Oh man.
Good conduct policies.
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
But the thing is, regarding this question too, I mean, using marijuana is not even illegal in some states now, and for medical reasons, most states even allow it. So I was kind of shocked that they're suspending them for a year for that. I mean, if it was like cocaine or something hard and something that's kind of not socially accepted, but using marijuana even seems like it's socially accepted now. So
No,
whereas
Roger
beating
came
your
out.
wife is. I mean, the NFL seems to have turned a blind eye to the violent crimes quite often in there.
Yeah.
Unless it is such damaging that it's going to hurt their image or more so hurt their sponsors. So sponsors like Michael Vick, for example.
I mean, besides domestic partners with kids, which I don't know. I mean, it's a weird demographic, I guess. Domestic partners with kids, singles with kids, they were the most okay with it in this regard. And then if you go to the race card, Native American and black again. We're talking about black a lot, Sam. I don't know. I don't even know what to say anymore.
To be fair, I'm in the mixed, so I'm also Hispanic.
Okay.
I have nothing to do with their vote.
all right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Blacks, you're representing yourself.
See, now I feel bad because last week we actually talked about. Now, correct me if I'm wrong saying it like this: the black, and Tony was wishing you were here so that way it was easier to talk about it. But I mean, now I guess we just have to talk about the mixed.
Yeah, well, we could like you can bring it up half of the time to me because I'm half black. So I guess we could flip a coin.
So every other question.
Yeah. Like, hey, the blacks, let's not talk to anyone. And then the next one, hey, the blacks, hey, drive, what'd you think? You do it like that.
I was surprised that even when you look at the party, I get it. It's only 6, 7, and 6%, but even somebody Democrat said this, somebody Republican said this, and 0 libertarians out of 56 libertarians, they were at least the unanimous no, this is bullshit kind of a thing. I'm just surprised that anybody can look at this question again and not get 100% and how they're going to be okay with it, but. I don't know. I just
understand it either.
I just think that it should be. It's something that they should care more about other than the pot. I don't care how many times.
Yeah, there was a video of Ray Wright and his wife that he was pulling her out of an elevator and she looked completely unconscious. It wasn't oh, she said this and he said that and nobody really know. No, she was unconscious.
Right.
Elevator.
All right. Well, let's do. We're gonna do a quick one here, real quick, because we're just gonna go across the thing. Did something happen to my video?
No,
you're still there.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Russell, LeBron or Jordan?
So, I put this question up not necessarily who's the best of all time, which I think some people took it as, but just who's better. Who is the better of the two, or even who do you like out of the two? And to me, the answer was Jordan. Partly for the reason Jordan seemed to dominate the sport more than LeBron, not necessarily in statistics, but in personality. Jordan was everywhere. He was on every commercial. He was just the man that everybody seemed to love. And even if you were a fan of a team that didn't like the Bulls, you still just had such a healthy respect for him, and that's why I picked Jordan. LeBron, the biggest problem I have with LeBron goes back to the whole way he left Cleveland, and I understand why he left Cleveland, but again, it seemed to be another ESPN exploitation media event of how that whole thing went down, and I feel that if LeBron had some better advisors, they probably should have said, hey, it's okay to go to Miami, but you don't want to go down and do it this way.
Right on. Dale?
Yeah, the press conference was ridiculous.
I voted Jordan in this poll. Obviously, being born and raised in Chicago, I grew up worshiping Jordan, and it's honestly one of the 3 or 4 times I can remember crying was the second retirement by him in '98. but he was just so much fun to watch. Didn't matter what team you rooted for. If the Bulls were on national TV, you were watching that game. And as CT said, the way LeBron left Cleveland, I went to school in Ohio, so I said he was going to Orlando. I was close. He ended up going to Miami. But people wanted to fight me from the fact that I said he's going for leaving Ohio. And if he would have went in and told Dan Gilbert 2-3 hours before the decision, so that way he could still give money back to his charity, I would have been okay with it. But the fact that he didn't, and Cleveland kind of was just left out dry, it just showed immaturity by LeBron, and I got to go with Jordan.
See, now I have a question as far as the Jordan aspect goes. I mean, you kind of mentioned that you were, you almost want to say diehard Jordan fan, being as, you cried when he retired. Did you find yourself rooting for the Wizards at all when he got involved there?
I did a little bit, not quite as much. That's kind of when I stopped watching the NBA. It kind of took a turn at that point where defense wasn't as emphasized. But I'd still watch any Wizards game when it was on national TV, or anytime it was in my market to see what Jordan can do. And he averaged 20 points a game when he was with the Wizards, which is impressive at the age of 45 or 43 or however old he was. But he did have a lot of off-the-court character issues, which kind of just got the media never brought up. And I don't know if he was playing today, if that would still be the case or not.
Emily, did you have a LeBron or Jordan favorite?
Jordan. I'm from Chicago. Jordan.
So you're just going with the hometown boy in this case.
Yeah.
How about you, Zad? Did you have one?
Yeah, I went with LeBron. I'm not a fan really of basketball in general or either one, but I thought he took, pardon the pun, too much heat for the way he left. That seemed reasonable to me. And other than that, I thought when I do watch basketball, I liked watching him play off and on. I mean, like I said, it's not a huge deal for me.
See, now, for me, I went with Jordan because one of the first times I ever even watched basketball was, one of the first championships that Chicago won when it was, Bill Cartwright and Jordan and Pippen and those guys. I mean, I was one of those guys that actually owned a pair of Pippins back in the day instead of Jordans. Yeah, that happened. But at the same time, the only thing that kind of I thought maybe gave LeBron almost an unfair advantage in this poll is that, you know a lot more about Jordan at this point. You know about the gambling, about the extramarital affairs and stuff like that. And I mean, I don't necessarily think any of that played a role in this particular poll. But I mean, it depends. I guess it depends on what question you asked yourself in your head when you saw this. Like, which one would you want in their prime? Who was the better person? Who do you want running your charity? Because even as far as the ESPN goes, like you said with the whole, like Sam, like you said with the ESPN exploitation, like sure that was partly ESPN, but if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that LeBron that came to them and said, "This is what I want to do," and we're gonna have a press conference?
Yeah, he was a giant douche with that. Like he was just there, like, yeah, this is what we're gonna do, and like this is a great idea. Like he was like being worshipped like a demigod and shit. Like, oh, where's LeBron gonna go?
So who did you pick in this, or who would you pick in this?
I didn't vote, but I would have picked LeBron just because the question that I would have asked myself in my head was, who would I rather watch? And Jordan, when he was playing, like he was just like physically dominant, and he clearly had the most skill. He was the best basketball player on the court all the time. But the reason I like watching LeBron play more is because he's just a freak of nature physically, and he's just like, he does things that are just like I couldn't fathom prior, and
yeah.
I don't like the way he left Cleveland. I thought it was really messed up. But to be fair, Cleveland sucked for a long time. They could not get a good player to play beside him, like at all, like ever. Like the best player that they got was like who? Mo Williams, like an old Shaquille O'Neal.
See, I was gonna say Carlos Boozer.
No.
I don't know if Boozer's ever been called the best player before, but that's the only guy I could even think of that was on that team with him.
Yeah, and that's why I don't have a problem with him leaving Cleveland. And I think if he wanted to win championships, and certainly multiple, he either the Cleveland ownership needed to get those players in. They needed their Pippen or whomever as a decent number 2 and even a good number 3. But I don't know. It's just the whole. He needed better advisors to just say, hey, we need to work on the public image of this. And I think that's where Jordan really was an expert. Was he knew how to portray his public image, even despite the fact that he had gambling problems and marital issues. And LeBron might actually be the better human being, but it didn't come off that way because of just how things went down. Like Sam said, he just was a total douche in that scenario. And he's probably been a model citizen since.
LeBron's done a couple douchey things himself off the court. Not quite like to the extent of like gambling and like extramarital affairs, but he's every now and then he does something where I'm like, LeBron, you dummy.
See, that's the thing. Like I was saying before, though, like he almost gets the benefit of the doubt at this point because he hasn't had the time to have anything, really big go down yet. And even if he has, like there hasn't been enough time between when he's done it for us to find out. You know what I mean? Like he may have done some really messed up stuff that we don't even know about yet because it's still in the process of going on. Like he might be doing something right now. He may have like a cockfighting match going on inside the backside of his house right now. We don't even know about it. And who knows what he's gonna get away with. I'm just hey, it's Florida. It's Florida, man. Some shit happens down here. But I'm just saying, like it's like I almost feel bad for the kid because he made a couple of really dumb choices that he got a lot of slack for. And like you said, if he had better representation, maybe he would have left Cleveland a little bit better. He still would have left. I mean, everyone's going to leave Cleveland. Yeah. I mean, sorry, Cleveland. You just kind of suck. I mean, in general. I mean, I'm going to say that now.
He just signed a 5-year extension up there.
Yeah.
Cornerback to the Browns. Just that he wants to stay through 2019. That's more power to him. I've been to Cleveland 3 or 4 times. It's sorry to anyone that lives in Cleveland, but it's a shithole. There's 3 buildings in the skyscraper.
The name of your football team is the Browns. I mean, how do you not think of actual shit when you hear that?
Yeah.
Poor Tim Couch.
And how do you not think of shit when you see them play?
And I know there's like a football movie coming out, and I'm pretty sure the Browns are like the focus point of that movie, where like I think like Kevin Costner is
trapped in. Yeah,
Kevin Costner killed it in that movie.
Oh, I mean, I haven't seen it yet. I mean, maybe it's going to win Oscars and stuff, and I mean, that's going to be interesting to. No. But even when they do a baseball movie, the like Major League, at least the first one was pretty good. I really enjoyed the first one. The second one not so much maybe, but again with the Cleveland, I mean, maybe they're just really cheap to get the rights to use the team. I mean, maybe that's why we always see that. But then again, at the same time, the Yankees were in that movie too. But there's always got to be a bad guy, I guess.
Yeah, we were portrayed unfavorably and unjustly in that movie.
Yeah, well, we were all. I mean, it was also the same way in Brewster's Millions. I mean, come on,
Exactly.
The Yankees are always the bad guys. Yeah. All right, so real quick before we finish up here, I did want to touch on a little bit of a subject that was unsports related that I thought at least.
Here we go.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's not. I don't think it's going to be a big deal with who's here right now and that's why I did it. Like, it's not anybody that is going to really have a strong opinion of it. But at the same time, there was obviously some talk in the actual poll that this was, and it got interesting. I don't know if fun's the right word. I don't know if funny was the right word, but definitely got interesting. Yeah, yes, it was animated. It was like a live cartoon. And I mean, the question was pretty much simple. It was, does show of hands users using alternative accounts, affect the community in a bad way? Most people did say yes, which I thought this would at least be more 50-50, or people wouldn't care and say no. But most people did say yes. Libertarians, of course, stuck out as normal as the ones that said no more than yes. But for the most part, everybody else, as a majority, said yes. I think there was an age breakdown too. Yeah, the over 40 crowd astoundingly said yes, whereas the other two didn't really care that much. Gender didn't really matter. But let's start with Dale, because I'm not sure that I'd say you're probably like Emily, probably one of the least likely people to have an alternate account. Do you think?
Funny you say that. I have an alternate account. It's for sports questions only. For sports only. It's I think it's Sports Guru or something. I haven't used it in probably 4 or 5 months, but I did have an alternate account for sports questions only, so sports fans would follow, and my polls wouldn't get downrated as much, and I can ask the questions that I want to ask on a more frequent basis. But I do think that the users that do go out and try and troll with alternate accounts, I think that does ruin the SOH community.
See now, and I think that's a point right there that I think needs to be made. I do think there is a difference between alts and trolls. An alternate account is what you, and I'm pretty sure Jive has one too, an alternate sports account that you go and use and ask different questions. And I think Zod has one for beta purposes. I think Connecticut. I think Russell, you pretty much your all is your main account because that's your sports account.
It's just me, and actually, along the lines of Dale, I did actually think about creating another account because originally my thought was, hey, I'm going to be the sports guy because when we first went into this setup where we can ask our own questions, Tony's advice was, hey, be specific, kind of have a shtick, and so I was like, oh, sports will be my thing, and it really seems like it's not as popular, and people just aren't as interested, and there certainly hasn't been much heated debate in my comments section, and but I do have very strong opinions on political issues and other related issues, and so I was thinking, maybe I should create a CT political account or something like that to kind of ask those other questions that I have an interest in. But I never got around to it because it just seemed like I only use my iPhone, and it just seemed like such a pain in the ass to just log out and log back on and log out and log back on.
Right on.
Unless you use the web version.
Yeah, and I don't use the web version. So.
Emily, what do you think? Do you think that let's define alternate as what we're talking about here, like Dale's alternate and Jive's alternate, and do you think alternate accounts have a bad effect on the community?
No, not if you're not trolling or anything on it.
See, and like I said, I think that there is a difference. Like for example, I have a couple of different accounts. Obviously, you could consider Show of Hands on Air as an alternate account that I have. Whereas Frowner, for example, which we all know that I use occasionally, that is a troll account. That is someone has pissed me off, and I'm out there and I'm whatever, and the whole point of him is a troll, and that's different. I think a troll.
That is, you're not trying to hide who you are with the Frowner. Right. I feel like some people have alternate accounts where they're trying not to be them.
Right, exactly.
And I don't understand that because it's SOH is essentially anonymous unless you like Emily, have decided to use your own name in your screen name. So if you have a name, and I won't mention any of them, but that is kind of anonymous, why do you need to create another account that is yet even more anonymous? If you're just going to be a jerk, then just be a jerk if that's who you are. You don't have to have oh, this is the account I'm going to be when I'm going to be a good person, and this is the account when I'm going to be a bad person.
At least in one case, it's because there's such a giant steaming turd nugget that they've already been blocked by almost everybody.
Exactly.
So
and when we talk about people who have alts that are for example, like Dale's or mine, like my alt is Jive Young Sports. If you know Jive Young King and you see Jive Young Sports, I really hope you can make that connection. And these accounts aren't necessary, like Zod doing beta testing. He doesn't. I don't know if he needs to do that on a different account, and I'm sure that helps a bit. But I voted yes, or I would have voted yes. I don't know if I actually did, but I would have voted yes because people who create alts to troll, that's their only purpose, and they obviously feel that they can't do that through their normal account. So yeah, it affects it negatively because then if somebody who has an alt and they're a dick on that alt, and then I'm talking to the actual person, I don't know that they're a dick. you know, and I that's just information that I would like to know. Like, hey, you're an asshole, so I'm going to treat you like what you are, you know. So, yeah, that's why I would vote definitively yes. Like, how wouldn't it, you know, like, just because most aren't essential if we're talking about people who aren't dicks.
Milk Dud brought up a point, and like I think the way he worded it was that you know, sometimes people are so notorious that they need to make another account so that way they can go out and have a conversation about a specific point without having someone think that they know how that person feels already and already have a predetermined opinion on what this person's opinion is going to be. And I mean, I can see that, and I mean, I have one of those myself. You know what I mean? Because sometimes I'll go out and I'll say something, and then, you know, you'll get this whole line of just comments that are pretty predictable. You know what I mean? Like, certain people are going to say certain things about certain subjects every time. You know, some people are meaner than others. Some people are more blunt than others. But I mean, if I had an account, out of all the accounts that I have, the ones that people know about and the ones that people don't, if there's one that I use to be a dick, it's my own. Like, that's the account that I am probably the biggest ass on for the most part, is my own account. And like, I have another account that I'll go out there and sometimes make a point that I'm trying to have a discussion about without people having me part of the conversation. You know what I mean? Like, without trying to just knowing how I feel about the subject already and having a predetermined thought on how this conversation is going to go.
That's a decent point, but then why, like, if you're going to say that, then why do you have a notorious reputation? And even if you do, if you want to express a specific opinion, have the communication skills to be able to do that. Like, I get it. It's simpler to have an alt, sure, but that still doesn't make me say that, oh, alts don't have a bad effect on the community, you know? Like, if you want to use an alt, go ahead and use an alt. I don't really give a shit. I'm just saying.
It has to do with the motivation. The ones we have, the special accounts we have, like the Show of Hands on Air account and the Virtual Congress, there are a whole bunch of them, really, that people have. The sports ones, those all make sense. Those aren't really alts. Those are alternate accounts, not alter egos. When the purpose is to be mean and just absolutely and do it by hiding so that nobody knows who you are, that just makes it even worse to me. That just makes it feel wrong. And it goes even further when somebody takes somebody else's. Like what happened with Doc Talk. That's not appropriate at all. And I'm assuming that he was actually as freaked out about it as he seemed like he was, but he should have been. I mean, he has a reputation that he's earned, good or bad. And somebody else is kind of tainting that when they're tricking people into thinking it's him, saying stuff that's so out of character for him.
I mean, I will. Wow, this is going to happen. I will say that at least in the Doc Talk situation, it wasn't something that, like, a poll was casted and, you know, there was this whole thing about him and commenting in other polls back and forth. That was, like, you know, maybe like a 20-minute thing that literally happened live on the spot, and then he, you know, the perpetrator, if you will, you know, not only admitted to it but changed it back, and, you know, that was kind of it was like a pot shot. You know, it was something that he said real quick.
Yeah, well, it got shut down pretty fast because there were a lot of people involved in trying to get it shut down pretty fast, because that was way over the line. Yeah, I thought so anyway.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's one thing. I don't think when you try to be honest, I didn't even really quite understand what happened. What I thought happened at the time was I thought that Doc got caught going in between accounts, and maybe somebody figured out his password and actually got his account.
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't even his. It's different letters, just kind of looks like it.
Yeah, no, the L in Talk was a capital I instead of an L. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I do think that, you know, taking someone's what is it?
It's like an identity theft.
Identity. That's a better word. Yeah. So that is a bit much, but at the same time, like, as far as, you know, people using alts and whatever like that, I mean, you can ignore, you know what I mean? And not only that, but I mean, like, some people, that the report a comment thing works really well. If anybody ever says anything that you don't like, you can report a comment and it disappears. I mean, somebody said something the other day that was so far to the extreme that by the time I even was able to get on the app, it was gone. Like I never even saw the comment. So I mean, I mean that was an example of that was the day that I kind of decided, you know, there is no need for me to go out and call an asshole, because the asshole is going to be an asshole and people are going to not like that asshole, and free market's going to dictate who likes this person and who doesn't, and they're either going to follow them or not follow them or ignore them or not ignore them, and there doesn't need to be, you know, a caped crusader, if you will, that goes around and says anything, because I mean, I didn't even get to see the comment. The community stepped up and said, I don't like this comment and I'm going to report it, and it was gone. The person still said it. They're still known for saying it, and you know, that's just it.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think they're good if they're for people to keep in touch with each other. You know, we have like, if you have a secret account, kind of sort of, that nobody knows except the person that you've let know, and you can post questions that nobody else knows about, kind of thing, for a while. It's kind of a backdoor way to have smaller groups, you know, more personal groups, and I think that's great. But if you're using it to hide behind and just be mean to somebody, that just doesn't feel right to me. Right. And I think that's harmful.
I mean, about this time, does anybody else have anything else that they wanted to bring to the table before we wind this down?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time on this. What's your favorite sports movie?
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd get to that one.
Damn, and I had that one favorited too. And
There was like 12 of them or something. So.
I thought you were segueing into it when you started talking about sports movies.
Exactly, I was waiting for it. So.
I think mine's Space Jam.
What is it?
No.
That's a sports movie.
We're gonna give you a mulligan on that, and we're gonna come back to Jive, because that doesn't count. So, Dale, what was yours?
Mine is Jerry Maguire. It was my motivation to work on the business side of sports when I realized I couldn't play sports anymore. And I know it's a chick flick. I'm sure a lot of girls don't think that, but for me, it's a chick flick. And I mean, it was just my motivation to work in the sports industry. And anytime it's on TV, I can watch it.
Man, I tell you too, I don't know if I would even consider that a sports movie.
Oh, it's a sports movie.
How not? It's all about the agent-player relationship. That's as deep into sports as you can get.
And no, that is a good point.
But if you want a true sports movie, I'd probably have to say probably Hoosiers, which was just a great movie, or maybe even Rudy.
That's a classic. I tell you what, I've never seen
those Indiana teams when it comes to sports. I don't know what it is.
So, Emily, which Mighty Ducks was your favorite?
I think Slapshot is probably my favorite. I like Miracle a lot, but the acting is really bad in that movie.
Have you ever seen what was there was like something Alaska or something
Mystery.
like that?
Mystery Alaska. I've seen that.
You've seen that? That was a good movie, right?
Yeah, it was a good movie.
I tell you what too. When I started watching that, I was watching it with a friend of mine, and we thought it was a Disney movie. We really did. Like, we thought at the beginning of it, and there wasn't anything too harsh about it, and then there was that specific scene that just kind of said, this is not a Disney movie. And right there and then, I mean, it was still a good movie though. I tell you, it was just kind of caught me off guard a little bit. But Slapshot, that's a classic too.
That scene actually ruined that movie for me, because I thought, kind of along your lines, Rob, I thought this was a great movie you could watch with kids and your family, and then all of a sudden, it's like, no, you know, this has got to go on the back burner, and I'm just going to watch it with my guy friends. So.
Let's see. So, all right. So, Zod, what was yours?
Big Lebowski.
The Big Lebowski is a sports movie.
If bowling isn't that's why I said it. Bowling isn't counted as a sport, then I'll pick dodgeball.
I forgot about dodgeball.
It's true. I did not even really consider that.
If dodgeball's not a sport, then I'll pick Little Foss and Big Halsey, because motorcycle racing definitely is a sport. But I could get. If you want to go with cartoons, I could go with Planes. I just saw that not too long ago. It's pretty cute.
See, I saw Big Lebowski as a sports movie.
I did too.
If a movie refers to sports enough, it's a sports-related movie. I mean, there's multiple categories that movie can go into, but I definitely see it as a sports movie. It does talk about bowling enough and the type of people who play it and what they believe and think about it. And that's why I actually put it as one of the two movies for bowling. Was Kingpin, which is much more bowling than...
That is a sports movie, yeah.
No, but
Space Jam had basketball and golf. Just saying.
You're really gonna go with Space Jam.
Okay, fine. Is Air Bud an acceptable answer?
Man,
I almost used Air Bud. I almost used that for.
Somebody
he was pretty talented.
And I thought that was a pretty good choice.
All right, I think I might say The Longest Yard. Does that count as a sports movie?
Absolutely.
Right, then The Longest Yard.
See, now I liked Tin Cup. Like, that was a good movie. I don't know.
Tin Cup's a great movie.
I don't know.
Costner does a great job in that one too.
Yeah, I don't know if that is, best movie of all time worthy, but that, for me, I mean, that's going to be The Natural.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I guess, haven't even seen The Natural.
No.
Has anybody? So Emily has not seen it. Anybody else not seen it here?
Hi.
I kind of sort of saw it. It was on, in the background. It's not something I got excited about.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time. Like I have a jersey that's from that movie. I have the actual letter jacket that I got off eBay for like $60, and that was a steal, by the way. It's an awesome jacket that I'll never wear because I live in Florida, but I own it. And I even, last time I was in Cooperstown, you go to the Cooperstown Bat Company and you can buy the defective bats that just have like a little tiny chip in them, and you buy them for like $10. And I took a wood burning kit and I made the bat from the movie. And
you made Wonder Boy.
I made Wonder Boy like that. That was.
Did you make the Savoy special?
I thought about it, but I actually did straight up make Wonder Boy like that with the lightning bolt and everything. But real quick before we finish up, I do want to get to some of the questions that were in that poll that I posted, since I did actually ask a question. And that serves me right. I was trying to figure out what the question I was going to ask was in that poll, and that I was really trying to not be, do you have a question, because we never usually get to them anyway, but I'm gonna make sure of that because somebody reminded me to. So I'm going to look through that real quick here. And is Tony still across the pond? Yes. And it's like 3 o'clock in the morning there, and that's why he's not here. So there's the answer to that question. Let's see. Somebody wants to peruse through these and see anything that's interesting. Help me out here. That'd be cool. I'm just going to kind of look through them and answer them slowly but surely here.
So I'm a little useless here.
That's all right. That's okay. Let's see here. Don't watch. That was a good point. That was a very good point.
That was a great point.
I like that one. Don't want to feel left out. That does. I'm not even sure that makes sense, but I said it out loud, so that counts.
What's and all? Okay.
Is lacrosse polo for people who can't afford horses?
Who said that?
Kindologist, of course.
Oh, he's a legend for that one.
Right. I mean, it's a valid point, and I'm gonna have to go with yes.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes as well.
That's definitely that. What's an all? Okay, that was answered. That's not even a question. Let's see. That's a sentence. Let's see here
you
now.
You should talk about why people root for teams. That's a reasonable question. Why do you support a team? Why do you pick a team?
That's a good one.
Nobody on the team's from where you are. It's not like the hometown people or anything. They're all from somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I became a Yankee fan because, I mean, that's where my dad brought me as a kid, was to Yankee Stadium. And one of the first games I went to was in 1977, and I could almost remember it like yesterday. It was Yankees versus Red Sox. So, I mean, you had that going right there with the enthusiasm of the crowd. The Yankees were losing 5-2, and I believe it was the bottom of the 7th, and Roy White hits a 3-run homer. Crowd goes crazy. You know, I'm like 10 years old, so the emotions catching up with me. Reggie Jackson hits in the game winner in the 11th inning, and I was a Yankee fan every day after that. So that's what happened to me.
And now, Emily, I'm pretty sure in your case, it's the local aspect, right?
Yeah.
Like you're from Chicago, so that's why it's the Blackhawks, and now you're in North Carolina, so that's why it's the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
All right, pop quiz. The Blackhawks play the Hurricanes. Who do you root for?
I root for overtime.
Who?
Overtime. I root for it to go into overtime, and I don't care if
No.
Who wins the
That's not an
shootout?
answer.
Who wins the shootout? You got to choose.
whoever needs to win more.
Oh,
Usually,
That's not the question here. That's
Boo.
not what I said. I said, which team do you root
I don't
for?
want to pick.
Oh, you have to. Oh, my God.
It's once a year they play. I don't want to pick.
it's
It is
game
kind of the
7.
dilemma.
Game 7 of the Stanley Cup, and they're playing each other.
Oh, I'd be so happy.
Who's,
Want someone to win.
who are you rooting for?
Yeah.
Both.
Probably
They both
Carolina
need to win.
because they need it more.
I don't know if that's. I don't even know if I like that question. I don't know. I like that answer.
I
That's a
don't.
politician answer if I've ever seen it.
Who do you root for? Pick one. Quick, go.
No.
You're not going to do it, are you?
No, she's not.
That's
It would jinx one of them. You don't dare say.
She's rooting for a good game.
Yeah.
She wants them
year
both
the
to win the
Blackhawks
Stanley
win.
Cup.
I just don't want anybody to get hurt.
Everyone have a good time.
Dale. Is that pretty much the same thing with you? Like the locality of the situation?
Yes and no. I mean, my grandpa is one of my biggest role models, and I was kind of just rooted for the teams that he rooted for. But even though I'm from Chicago, I have no problem admitting I grew up a Brett Favre fan.
Ooh.
So it was really weird.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I'd be wearing a Favre jersey, but rooting for the Bears on Sundays.
That's dangerous.
And then when Favre went to the Jets, rooted for the Jets. When he went to the Vikings, rooted for the Vikings. I rooted for Favre, basically. And whenever they played the Bears, if, say, the Packers were eliminated from the playoffs, I'd root for the Bears. If the Bears were eliminated from the playoffs, I'd root for Brett Favre. So, besides that, I'd say just based off the teams my grandpa's liked, that's the teams I grew up liking because he usually was the one to bring me to games.
And for me, it's kind of similar. Like when, I popped out of the womb and came out and caught in a pinstripe towel. Like I was a Yankees fan before I even had a chance to, like, actually make a choice for myself because my father was like, "Yo, look around. We're Yankees fans." As a child, I was actually trying to be a rebel, and yeah, I said that too. And I was trying to root against him, so I'd have some way to root against my father. But I didn't think of it too well, so I was like, I'll be a Mets fan. So for a short period of time in my childhood, I was a Mets fan because I thought that was the team that would always be against the Yankees. But by the time I figured out that I was just wasting my time being a Mets fan, I didn't want to change that to be a Red Sox fan. So I just put on the pinstripes and said, okay, you're right, fine, I'm a Yankees fan.
That made me think I have to change my answer about the sports movie. I'll pick Rollerball.
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 What the hell is rollerball?
It's like Future.
Is that what the glowing ball and shit like that?
Well, yeah, I think they had two versions of it, but you want the original, not the
Is that the
second.
one where they were on the motorcycles and they basically played to kill each other?
Yeah, it's almost like a mix between roller derby and I don't know, basically roller derby, roller derby and lacrosse, I guess. I'm not sure, but yeah, people die in that movie or get hurt.
I mean that's a reason to like a sports movie, I guess. They're like, yo, people die in this.
Well, no, I thought of it because when you guys were talking about grandparents, my grandmother used to watch roller derby and pro wrestling, but roller derby, for a while I actually liked watching roller derby, and I guess there was a roller derby movie that wasn't too bad, but I can't think the name of it. Had like Drew Barrymore or somebody in it.
I have no idea.
Some girl roller skate movie.
I will kind of address this too. Somebody else has mentioned this in the AJ was saying something about Tony's thoughts on alts. This will probably come up next week again because, to be honest, I was also kind of curious to Tony's feelings on the whole alternate account and troll aspect of it. I know we've touched on it before. I'm sure we'll touch on it again. Next week should also be an interesting week as far as the theme and the guests. That some of that's still getting ironed out, so I'll deal with that a little in a couple days probably. I have tomorrow off, so I'll probably end up doing most of it tomorrow because then my next day off is I couldn't even tell you when. But I think that's pretty much the questions that I saw that were actual questions, and that was ironic too. Like the best question about like why do you root for your sports teams? That question had 0 likes. I went by the likes originally, and I wouldn't even have seen that if I had gone by that. I'm glad I went back to doing it by like most recent, so I actually saw that.
Trav didn't get to say why he roots for his teams though. We skipped him.
Oh yeah,
I rooted for the Broncos because I saw John Elway and Terrell Davis playing, and they were just amazing, and I was in awe. And I wasn't really conscious of sports culture, like, oh yeah, you root for your local team. So I was just oblivious to that whole element. So I said, yeah, I'm a Broncos fan. And I root for Arsenal in the English League because they were just the first team I saw, and I've done a lot of research. Well, not a lot, but a good amount of research into their recent history. And I like their kit, which is their jersey. So, yeah.
So how did you pick like what soccer team do you root for? Because I know you're a soccer fan.
Yeah, Arsenal. They're because they had Thierry Henry back in the day. Like, well, no, Thierry Henry still plays, but now he plays in the MLS. But he was a legend in like it was like the early 2000s, and they just had an amazing team. They had a 42-game unbeaten streak. I believe it was 42. And they were just dominant, and they had like this dynamic offensive style, and it was just like fun to watch, and it was just great. It's part of the reason why I'm such a big soccer fan now.
Right on.
I'm with you on Elway, man. In football, when he retired, there was no point in watching football anymore.
John Elway was the man.
I love watching him play. I tell you, I don't even like football, but I love watching him play. I mean, everybody else, the quarterback, they're all like, "Oh, don't hit me! Drop the ball, throw it, run out of bounds, whatever." Elway would just stand there, and he'd just stand there and stand there and stand there. Nobody's open. He just like, "Yeah, crap." He just kind of hold on and take it.
I tell you, one of the first football games I ever remember watching. Now this quarterback ended up being the reason I was not the reason, but like I watched him play, and I was like, okay, so this is what a quarterback is. Now, not even a lot of people are going to know this name. Russell will. Jeff Hostetler.
Oh, yes, Jeff Hostetler. Hostetler was the guy who was going to take over for Phil Simms.
Yeah, that was so. It was. I think it was a Super Bowl, and Phil Simms was playing, and he got hurt, and in comes this jamoke that just was like it was ready, set, hike. He'd get the ball and just run for his life and just try to get rid of it as soon as he could. And I mean, I don't remember a lot of the game because I was young, and I was just like, oh, so this is what a quarterback is. I didn't really know until years later that you're not supposed to just run for your life as soon as you get the ball. So it's not kill the carrier. So I didn't know that until later on. But
well, somehow he got credit for winning that Super Bowl. Not the fact that the Bills, missed a pooch kick. And then the next offseason, the big question in here in New York was, should Jeff Hostetler replace Phil Simms as the starting quarterback? And they ultimately decided yes, and then the Giants basically sucked for a few more years, and that was about it. So
I'm just glad we got through this entire episode without having to acknowledge that I am actually a Bills fan.
Oh,
that's
you.
Oh,
there you go.
What do you have to root for?
I feel bad.
Steve Johnson?
Hey, so
he's gone. Stevie Johnson's gone. He got traded.
There we go.
Oh my days! What's left?
Okay.
So your owner just passed away.
You got C.J. Spiller,
right,
and Sammy Watkins. That's all you got going for you.
So that was pretty much verbal tomatoes coming at me just now, and that's fine.
No, I got a legitimate question for you because I used to do my Army Reserve duty up there in Buffalo, and a lot of Bills fans, and their biggest complaint was that it was the owner holding the team back, wouldn't spend money, etc.
Right.
And now that he's gone, I mean, what do you think? What's the prospects for the Bills' future?
They're going to get a new stadium, and they're going to be a better team because it's the same thing I think with Al Davis. I think Al Davis was one of the things that was holding back the Raiders towards the end of his reign, if you will. Now, I mean, obviously they're not going to get better overnight, the Bills or the Raiders, but I think it's just one of those things where once they'll build a new stadium, they'll rejuvenate the fan base, and maybe people will want to play in Buffalo. Nobody wants to play in Buffalo. That's the problem.
Do you guys still have Mario
Have you been to Buffalo? It's like
I've-
Cleveland.
So many things were just said.
Sorry.
Go, Sam. Go.
Do you guys still have Mario Williams?
I don't think so.
No, he's there.
Oh, he is? Oh, all right.
Is he healthy?
Probably
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's so no, we don't.
Okay.
Russell, what was yours?
I was just ragging on Buffalo.
Oh, sure. So I'm glad we took time to do that.
Because every time I used to go up there, I mean, it was 3 degrees and cold, so it was basically who wants to play in Buffalo. I mean, do I want to play in Buffalo or do I want to play in Miami?
Well, so now, real quick, I'm trying to wind this up, obviously, but if and when, or I'll say when, because it's probably going to happen sooner than later. When Buffalo gets a new stadium, are they going to get a dome?
They should.
They should, but will they? That's the question.
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, one of the advantages of playing in a place like Buffalo, and it's what we have here in New England with the Patriots as well. If you're a good team and you're potentially going to get a 1 or a 2 seed in the playoffs, I mean, you want Miami coming up here and playing in the cold and having to deal with that because it's to your advantage. So if you're in Buffalo, you might not want a dome.
Yeah, just like Green Bay and then the frozen tundra.
Well, in Seattle, who built their new stadium, purposely built it so that the acoustics would be to their advantage, and Elway, Jesus Christ, what's his face there? Can't even catch the ball there in the Super Bowl. I screwed that up. Sorry. Do over the ball again. Where's my mulligan?
I'm still stuck on thinking that Rob ought to have to say why he's a Buffalo fan.
Oh yeah, you need to answer that.
All right, so it's
that's
actually a pretty decent story, but it's not fun or anything. But it'll make sense. So after that football game with Jeff Hostetler, I didn't watch football for the longest time because the first month of football is the best month of baseball. So by the time baseball was over, I'd try to catch up on football, and half the people I know were already hurt, and I didn't know what was going on, and I said, screw it. 2001 was my first year bartending in a sports bar, and I worked on Sundays during the days. So I had no choice but to start watching football and paying attention so I knew what the hell was going on. It was right after 9/11, so I decided to just pick my team, and being from Connecticut at the time, even though I was a little sore because the Patriots were supposed to come to Connecticut at one point. There was talk about the Patriots being the Hartford Patriots. I still went with the Patriots. So the Patriots went on, and toward the end of that season, that was where the whole Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady thing, that's where Tom Brady got his start for the most part. Now, for 2 reasons, I didn't like the way that Drew Bledsoe was treated toward the end of the year, because you're never supposed to lose your job to an injury. And he lost his, so Brady got a start, and when he wasn't doing a good job, Bledsoe came in, won the game for them, and they went on in the playoffs. The next game, it should have been Bledsoe's start, because you don't lose your job to an injury, and they didn't. They went back to Brady, and never gave the ball back. Now, between that happening and they won the Super Bowl, and I was already getting called a bandwagon jumper as it was, being a Yankees fan, when Drew went to Buffalo, so did I.
Oh.
And that's why I'm a Bills fan. See, it's a logical thing. It's not necessarily a fun story, but it makes sense.
It's still really unfortunate, but
right.
It's an honorable choice.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also the same reason why to this day I think Belichick's an ass. Like, I've just never been a Belichick fan ever since.
Belichick is an ass, but he's a great coach.
That's a true statement.
All about winning.
It is all about winning, and right now it's all about ending, because I do not want to again break my own record for longest show of hands on air.
We have 8 hours.
No, we don't have
8 hours.
That's the mega show. That's the mega show that's going to come up someday, and hopefully I'm not going to be here for that one.
That'd be like a New Year's Eve spectacular or something.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. New Year's Eve spectacular super show, 8 hours long, show of hands on air. Obviously, I have no app news about what's going on. I do know that the iPad update, some people liked it, some people loved it, some people didn't like it. If you haven't rated the app yet, after the new update, go do it. I do know that a lot of people did step up and went out and gave it a good rating because it went from 2 stars when the whole point came up to, I think it's up to 4 at this point now. So, I mean, that's good. But at the same time, if you haven't gone out and done that yet, do Tony a solid and go do a good app. Go do a good review for it because, obviously the higher the reviews, the more new people we get, and I mean that's good, right? More people equals more gooder. Sure.
More better.
More better.
All right. So yeah, and then as he would say, let's wind this down, and I'll see you guys later, and we'll see you on the app. Is that what we're supposed to say now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll see you on the app. Bye, guys.
See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.